think we all agree with Biden, right? And Trump said that he's rewriting his RNC speech to call for unity also. So they're both trying to lower the temperature. Is that even possible, ladies?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank God that the former president's okay. I applaud Secret Service. Listen, there's going to be some postmortems on what went wrong, but those who rushed the stage to make sure he was okay, because we're milliseconds and millimeters from a very different outcome and a very different conversation we'd be having in our country today. I think it's a moment for reflection on the tone and tenor of our politics. And one thing that is fundamentally American is the right to criticize policies. It is also our right to criticize the character of our politicians, but the way in which we do it matters. And we live in an era where escalatory rhetoric and saying the most damning and most inciting thing oftentimes is what's rewarded. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to just check how we engage. And then looking to the fact that we live in the era of information warfare. On our phones, there are algorithms that are pumping to us information every day meant to make us hate our fellow Americans. Our foreign adversaries are on our social media. They're putting information to validate our worst assumptions about fellow Americans. We can have different political viewpoints in this country, and we can still respect each other and respect each other's right to different opinions and come together as a country, because the way you defeat America, it's not with bombs, it's not with missiles, it's tearing us apart from within. If you care about democracy, listen more, say less.
I agree with her. This is probably the first time that I've heard anybody on The View that said something that sounds logical. I agree with her that the best way for you to be able to tear people apart is to conquer by dividing, right? And so she's absolutely right. Unfortunately for her, and unfortunately for a lot of us here in America, that ship has already sailed, and you're not going to be able to put that genie back into the bottle, because it's not just information warfare on one side, it's also information warfare that's not necessarily being advertised, because I believe that this president, or the former president Donald Trump, who presided over America from 2016 through 2020, is the most persecuted president of our lifetime, bar none. The most persecuted political figure of our lifetime. See, we don't want to talk about election interference when it comes to the fact that they trumped up a whole bunch of charges, and they leveraged, or they tried to, and it didn't work. They leveraged their legislative branches and our judges in the different courts in the different states to try to even prevent him from being on the ballot in the first place. And so when the people then revolted, because a lot of times we want to talk about the rhetoric, but we don't want to talk about the response. But when the people revolted, then they wanted to act like it was only one way. No, just because you throw stones and hide your hands, but another side decide that they're a little bit more overt with it, doesn't mean that you wasn't throwing stones.
So, I'm very happy Donald Trump is safe. Full stop, period. And I condemn all forms of political violence.
Notice how there's no applause is in the audience, because we already know who their target demographic is.
I'm simply heartbroken for the family of Corey Compertori, a volunteer fire chief, a father, a husband who lost his life shielding his family simply for going to a political rally. And I was watching it live because I thought he was going to announce his VP that day. That was part of what was being said. And I immediately thought it was a shooting. And I was shocked and I was heartbroken, because I fled political violence in Nicaragua. And to me, this is something that's not supposed to happen in America. I felt the same way when I did watching January 6th. These attacks on democracy, on America, don't happen in this country. They happen in other places. And I'm very happy for President Biden. I'm very happy that he's taking the opportunity to be on air now 3 times, asking us to call on our better angels, asking us to unite, asking us to tamp down the rhetoric. I'm going to try to heed his words. Today is a day, I think, and this entire time, for self-reflection and a call to unity. I truly hope Donald Trump uses the platform he has to do that. And I also need to say, I hope that at some point in this country, we do have a conversation about what is happening, because we can't just react when it is our side. What was this again? It was, a 20-year-old lone wolf, white, whack job with easy access to a gun. And we have to have a conversation about that, because it was.
Nah, you're not taking away my guns, big dog. The only reason why we have civilization and the way that it is, and that we're able to protect ourselves, is because if you go over to Oakland, it's a free for all. If you go to Chicago, it's a free for all. If you go to New York, it's a free for all. And so ain't no way in the world that you're gonna take my ability to be able to protect ourselves at all. And I know that they want to try to, remove the guns out of the hands of the people, but it's not the people that really, honestly, and you can take this one situation, it don't have nothing to do with gun control. And they always gonna try to leverage the conversation in order to push through an agenda and spark a different type of conversation that's irrelevant. The fact of the matter is, I believe that this was an inside job, and it was a lack of insight, a lack of truly doing their job from the Secret Service, and the lapse that came along with it that ultimately got Donald Trump ear pierced and in this assassination attempt in the first place. It never should have happened. Don't have nothing to do with gun control. Don't have nothing to do with easy access to guns or anything like that. This had everything to do with the Secret Service failing at what they were supposed to do. And the fact of the matter is Donald Trump had been, and his team and his administration, been asking for more Secret Service protection, and had been denied by Mayorkas, which is supposed to be the same person that oversees our borders and Homeland Security. That's the facts.
It wasn't a drag queen. It wasn't an immigrant.
It
wasn't a pissed off liberal woman. This keeps happening. And we need to react, not as left or right, not as Republicans or Democrats. We need to react as Americans.
All right.
And we need to ask better.
Okay, I just want to add that the shooter, yes, he was a 20-year-old kitchen worker from nearby Bethel Park in Pennsylvania. According to a CNN report, a senior law enforcement official
A CNN report, right?
Said that he bought 50 rounds of ammunition from a local gun store hours before the rally. Shouldn't that have been reported? Somebody buys a 20-year-old white guy? I mean, we've seen that many.
And this is why I say a lot of times that white men a lot of times have now become public enemy number one. And that if you are a white man that then does something that they think doesn't make sense, or you fit the narrative or the stereotype, automatically they saying, hey, a 20-year-old white guy went out and bought a bunch of ammunition.
Many times now, young white men with guns, and nobody reported that he bought 50 rounds of ammunition?
Well, there's also a post-mortem, as Alyssa said, is really needed, because if you look at the layout of this speech, there was one building that they had not checked at all, which seems like a very blatant oversight of some form. So I know those meetings will be had. When you mentioned this seems of another place, like this doesn't happen in America, I feel like this seems like another time, because most of us have only read about assassinations or attempts in history.
I was there.
Well, okay.
For
I
all
was
of
going to
them,
let you go
including
with
Lincoln.
my age reference, too. But I mean, you read about them, kind of like the 60s were rife with these sorts of things.
It was a terrible time in America. To say that this doesn't happen in America is false.
No, but I mean,
it happened, and it happened in your lifetimes to Reagan.
Yes.
And Gerald Ford there were attempted attacks on his life. I was there when Martin
all
Luther
of these
King was
examples
shot.
you're having are very long
Martin Luther King was shot. Jesus Christ.
time ago.
But Sarah, just in the last 7 years, Steve Scalise,
I know
January
can I
6th,
just
Mike
finish my
Pence.
point? There's a lot of
Pelosi.
political violence. I recognize
Gabby
that,
Gifford.
Nick. And I think the fact that President Biden came out and did exactly what he should. First of all, he referenced he had spoken with the former president. He referenced the victims of this. And then he had a very unifying message about we are all the same in recognizing that political violence has no place in this country. I also think there'll be a unique example not only to self-reflect, but we already heard that President Trump has changed his remarks at the RNC to have a more unifying tone. Stranger things have happened. People that have
Of course you're going to change your remarks. You got to address the situation because you just got your ear shot. Of course you're going to change your remarks. All of this is coming, especially from the older woman that's on the left. All of this is coming from people that literally listed Trump or labeled Trump and compared him to Hitler. And now they want to sit here and switch up their tone and switch up their message to act like we're supposed to have more of a unified message. Come on, man, keep that same energy. First, take responsibility for your role in it and using your platform to create this type of visibility in the first place.
have had illnesses or near-death experiences, sometimes that can be a wake-up call to change things. So I really hope this is a lasting.
Sonny, we'll come back to you when we come back after the commercial. I just want to say, though, that this shooter, he was a registered Republican. He also
Pushing another narrative. We already know, listen, here's a finesse. For those of y'all that's not familiar, if you've ever been to a political rally, a lot of these candidates will advocate for whatever side that you want. So let's say that you're a Democrat, or let's just say you're a Republican, right? And they'll say, hey, register as a Democrat to then try to influence what's happening in the primaries on one side that you don't agree with so that we can have more of a control of who it is that we're running against. And it doesn't matter what you registered as, it matters where you put your money at. And this dude had never voted before, but then he donated to a left-leaning organization. And we know that he tried to take out the president of the United States, the former president of the United States, and soon to be the next president of the United States of America. So that goes without saying. They throw these little stupid shots in there to try to influence you, to try to continue to have these stupid conspiracy theories and try to discount the severity of the incident. But the reality is that we know why this type of stuff happens and what really goes on.
Donated $15 to Act Blue in 2021, which is an odd thing, but he was a Republican.
Say that it was Act Blue is a left-leaning organization. Don't then say, but he was a Republican. No, tell the whole story and tell it in its entirety so that we can get the full context. This is why it's so disingenuous.
Look, I think Biden's Oval
If there's anything
Office
else-
address should be a guide to all of us. I think he, and I'm going to follow his lead. And when
I can't do it no more. I can't. Because even in this, they try to continue to spin a narrative to be something that it's not. And I'm just not going for it, bro. It doesn't resonate with me. I'm not rocking with it. I don't agree with what's going on. And even in a situation where Trump was the one that literally had the assassination attempt on his life, they still trying to spin it and make it something else and make it about Biden. Let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Just dropped the video today. Also, on top of that, Teach Hanley, 40% off your first order plus 20% off life. I want to know what y'all think inside of the comments. Make sure y'all tap into After Hours. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to holler at y'all later. Peace, man.